Hey there, scientists. Welcome to Room 9, our region's largest classroom. My name is Mrs. Newby, and I teach first grade at Flynn Park Elementary School, which is in the school district of University City. Today, I'm going to be teaching science for first grade, but as always, all learners are welcome to join with us, and I'm so happy you're here today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about sound, and most specifically, we're going to try to answer the question, how do we use sound to communicate? So lately we've been talking a lot about sound and how many different ways we can make sound and how our ears even receive that sound. So we know that all sound makes vibrations. So it makes things move super quick back and forth, and those vibrations are what travels in the air like sound waves, and they go into our ear, hit our eardrum, and then go to our brain to let us know what is making the sound. It's pretty cool, and I've had so much fun learning that with you guys. Now, we've also talked about different ways we can describe or make sound. We know that we can make the volume either high or low. We can turn the volume up, or we can speak super loud, or we can speak super quiet. And that's the same thing with instruments or anything that makes sound. We can make it super loud or we can make it super soft. Another way we can change sound is by the pitch. We can have a low pitch where the sound is super, super low and deep, or we can have a high pitch where it's kind of like squeaky, like a mouse. So those are two ways that we can describe and change sound. You can do that with your voice, you can do that with an instrument, you can do that banging on something, or just making any type of sound, either high or low pitch, or really loud volume or soft volume. So my thinking now that we know a little bit about sound and how it works, how can we use sound to communicate or to talk to other people? Now, if I asked you that question and you had to think about it, what are some ways we do that now? Like, how do we communicate with one another now? What's something that we do that makes sound that helps us communicate? I'm going to start and give you a clue, and I hope you can think of even more. And I hope you guys can jot this down on your handy dandy science paper so that you can jot down your notes like a cool scientist. So the very first one that really pops into my mind is exactly what I'm doing now. What am I doing? I'm talking, and that is the best way that we can communicate. And when I do talk to someone, I am using sound with my voice. So let's write that down. That's probably the most popular and the most used way of communication is just talking to someone. Talking. What are some other ways we communicate with people? Now I know it still has to do with talking, but what do we do when someone is like super far away? Like if you have a family member that lives in a different state, how do you talk to them or communicate with them? Over the phone, exactly. So our phone is actually able to allow our voice or the sound waves that we make with our voice to travel far, 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 far away. But was that able to happen a long time ago? What did people do before we had phones? They talked to one another. Guess what else they did? They wrote letters. And they sent letters into the mail, and sometimes it took days and days and days for that letter to get to that person. Now, that is a good way of communication, but is that a way to use sound with communication? No. So back in the day, before we had a lot of technology, there really weren't very many ways that we can use sound to communicate with one another. because we didn't know a whole lot about sound. Now, we learned that sound travels through the air in sound waves to get from one spot to another. But over time, scientists were able to study sound, and they were able to really explore and experiment and gain more understanding with sound and how to make those sound waves travel even farther. So that's one way we were able to use our phones to get our voices to communicate. But besides our voices, is there anything else we do with sound in order for us to communicate? Now, I think that sometimes in different buildings, like sometimes when we're in school, do we communicate by using sound to let us know that school starts or school is over? Yeah, so a lot of the times there's gonna be people who communicate using different ringing noises. And we've talked about that a couple weeks ago, is different sirens, different bells, or just different alerts that we hear that let us know something is happening. So that is a huge way that we communicate. The sirens behind you in the car let you know that the ambulance is behind you and you need to move over, right? The school bell lets you know that school is over. You get to go home. Let's see, what's another one? Ooh, even with the phone, if you hear a phone ringing, what does that tell you? It tells you that someone is on the phone and you have to answer it. So all of those different ringings and the sirens and those noises alert us or let us know that we need our attention somewhere. So let's write that down. I'm going to put ringing slash sirens slash bells. That's a lot, right? So all of those kinds of noises. If you hear any of those types of noises, you're gonna know. And guess what? I just thought of another one. What do you think is going on when you hear a knock at the door? What type of sound does that tell you? It communicates that someone is at the door. So not everyone is talking whenever they communicate. There's lots of different ways that we communicate using sounds without even talking. But talking is the number one most important one. But over time, scientists have really been able to think about more and better ways to communicate using sound without having to always talk. And that is pretty cool, because I might have a friend that's super far away. I can't talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. So how am I going to be able to talk to them? And even talking to you right now, you guys are listening to me on the TV. I'm not in front of you. So were we able to do this hundreds and hundreds of years ago? No, we didn't have TVs a long, long time ago. So I wouldn't have been able to send out this teaching lesson or this message to you because we didn't have the TV, or we didn't have the knowledge to be able to use information about sound to be able to make TVs so that you can hear me right now. So it's really cool how engineers and scientists have been able to think about how to make sound better and for it to travel much, much longer distances. So I have this book here. It's called Technology Then and Now. And it's by Cynthia O'Brien through the Crabtree Publishing. And it talks about all kinds of technology, but I looked through the table of contents because I wanted to see if there were any chapters about sound or communication. And I saw a few that I really, really want to read with you. So table of contents is always in the front. If I kind of scroll my finger down, I see here cell phones. And that's one that we talked about, a way to communicate. So I want to see how phones were back then and how are they now. So let's turn to page 12. Cell phones. A cell phone helps make it easier for people to talk to each other. That is so true, right? I can talk to my friends in a different state, a different country, a different city, a different super far away, any place, because of cell phones and even just phones in general. So I'm super grateful for phones. The first cell phones were big and heavy. They were too big to put in your pocket. They did not have a camera or games to play. Isn't that crazy? Look at this giant phone. Man, that is a big phone. Imagine carrying that thing everywhere you go. That is crazy. But now, today, cell phones are small. They are easy to take anywhere. They are more fun to use too. They have cameras and games to play. So you see here, that little cell phone, look how little that is compared to that giant thing. So we're kind of used to these cell phones too. And that's also a cool thing that engineers were able to not only invent a cell phone, but they're able over time to make it better and better and better. So now we have this thing that not only can we talk on the phone, but we can play video games, we can take pictures, and the cell phone also lets us communicate in different ways. We can FaceTime now, we can send text messages, so it's not really using sound, but we can still communicate using cell phones. Let's see, what else? We can go online and send messages that way also. There's so many different ways besides just talking on the phone now, but it's because technology gets better and better. Now, if I go back on the table of contents, I also notice there's a chapter titled Computers. That is another huge way we communicate. Let's see what that page has to teach us. A computer is a technology that can make life easier, safer, and more fun. Isn't that true? I use this sign sometimes when I agree with someone who talks. I totally agree, because it does make life a lot easier. I can find research, I can communicate more and in different ways using a computer, and it's a lot more fun. The first computers were as big as a whole room. Can you imagine having to go into a whole different room just to get a computer or to see a giant computer to fit it in? They had many wires and buttons. They were hard to use. Look at this picture of this giant computer. That is a big computer. I don't even see a screen on it. There's a lot of buttons and wires. But computers today are easier to use. They are smaller too. Laptops are computers that you can carry everywhere. Now these are the types of computers we're used to. So again, another page that proves that engineers make things better and better. So it's also really cool that not only do we have ways to communicate with people using sound, but we also have ways to communicate to people using technology. And the way that computers work and even phones work is by coding. Now, if you love to code, that is the perfect way and the only way that computers are able to communicate. Not only can we communicate to computers to tell them to do different things, but we can communicate with one another using different types of codes that computers can understand. So a lot of scientists have started out using sound to help us communicate, and then they started to get better and better by coming up with different codes to also communicate with one another and with technology. It's super, super cool. So we are going to practice those two different ways to communicate. One using sound and another using coding. So the best way that I can explain is if we didn't have any technology, which back in the day, they really didn't have a whole lot of technology, they had to try to find the best ways to get your sound waves to travel farther without having to scream. So if I'm sitting right here and you're at your house right now and I say, "Hey, can you hear me?" Would you be able to hear me without the TV? If you just stepped outside, would you be able to hear me? Of course not, because my sound waves cannot travel that far. So a lot of scientists had to think of different ways to get sound waves to travel farther without us having to scream. So one fun way, and one way that a lot of kids also love to do, is by using 2 cups and a piece of string. So if I gave you 2 cups and a piece of string, how can you get your sound waves to travel using those materials? What do you think? That's kind of silly, right? Could I get my sound waves to travel through this wire? I can, yeah, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen this before. So if you have 2 cups that you can poke a hole at the bottom, and you stick the string in the hole, and what I like to do is tie a quick knot. And then tape it to tape it inside. And it has to be touching. Why do you think it has to be touching? Well, the sound waves have to reach it, right? So if I want my sound waves to travel through this string here from one cup to the other, it needs to be connected. So you see a lot of wires and towers outside, electrical wires. And that is how engineers allow our sound waves and just noises in general to travel. So not only do we allow our sound waves to travel through the air, we can get our sound waves to travel through other things. And other things, we discovered, allow those sound waves to travel much farther. So that's why we have all those electrical wires hanging out, because it helps those sound waves travel. So if you have your string and your 2 cups, you can actually make your string much longer, because if you had it like this, you could still hear one another from this far apart. But if you made it super long and you were in one room and someone else was in a different room, I want you guys to see if you can stretch the string. So it has to be kind of tight, because if it's kind of loose like this, your sound waves wouldn't be able to travel very well. It would kind of stop. But you want your sound waves to travel through a really tight piece of string, so that whenever you are talking through it like this, the vibrations are going to go in the cup, travel through the string, and then it's going to echo into this other cup. It's really, really cool and a lot of fun. And honestly, a lot of playgrounds actually have something like this. If you notice, some playgrounds have like a speaker. You speak through, and then there's another speaker like on the other side of the playground. Your sound waves are going to travel through those pipes and then into the other one. It's really cool and a lot of fun to do. So this is a really cool way that kids really like to allow their sound waves to travel farther distances without having to scream. So I want to see if you guys can try to practice whispering in it. And if your friend is on the other end, super far away, maybe your friend will be able to hear what you said, even though you whispered. We'll find out. And you can also practice doing different pitches. You can have a high pitch and see if they hear that, and a low pitch, and see if those vibrations travel through that string. But this is a lot of fun. Do you think that people used these types of devices a long time ago? No. Imagine seeing like a busy office place, and this is in one room, and then you got lots of string everywhere, and it's in other rooms, and that's how they talk to each other. That would be silly. But that's why we have lots of wires and electrical wires and stuff outside, because our sound waves are traveling through that. whether it's through the TV, what's happening right now when you're watching me, or on the phone, if you're on the computer, those sound waves and those codes that we're putting in are going to be able to travel through it. So it's pretty cool. So now that we know many different ways that we can communicate using sound today, and even thinking about how they did it back then a long time ago, we are going to talk about another way that we communicate today, and that is called coding. So we use coding a lot when it comes to technology, and we use technology a lot. So anytime you're on your computer or on your phone or even your video game, playing video games, there are different codes that are going through, and you are communicating with that technology in order to do what you want it to do. So it's pretty cool. So even if you're sending a message on the computer or a text message, or if you're searching for something online, the computer or that device is using codes in order to get you to where you need to be. So we are going to practice a really exciting piece of code. And I am going to give you some clues as to what I need you to create using steps, and that's exactly how technology works too. You have to kind of use one step at a time. You can't tell it to do something super big. You have to break it up into pieces. So I am going to give you directions of something to draw, and I'm going to tell you the directions step by step. And if you listen to my directions very carefully, you'll be able to come up with the drawing that I need you to draw without me having to say what it is. So I hope you have a piece of paper and a pencil or something to write with. I am going to get started in 10 seconds. So if you don't have something now, go quickly get it, because this is a really fun activity. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so I hope you're ready. Listen carefully and do exactly what I described, okay? And then I'm gonna show you what it really looks like. So step 1, draw a circle for the body. I wonder what you're drawing. Draw a circle for the body. Okay. Step 2, draw 2 eyes. Okay, so now you have a circle for the body and you have 2 eyes. Now I want you to add a crown. Add a crown. Next, now you should have a body, you should have 2 eyes, and you should have a crown. Step 4, I need you to add wings. What you're drawing has wings. Now I need you to add wings. Make those pretty little wings. And step 5 is to add 4 legs. So you have a circle for the body, you have 2 eyes, you have a little crown, you have some wings, and now you have 4 legs. Hold up your picture, let me see. Okay, I'm about to show you what it should look like. So if you followed my code and my directions, your drawing should look just like this. Does yours look similar? I have my circle, my 2 eyes. Now, did I tell you what the 2 eyes should look like with a big circle and a little circle inside? No, I didn't say that, but I could have if I wanted my code to be more specific. And I said a crown. I should have maybe told you how many points to draw. That would have helped a lot more. I have some wings, and that's the same thing with wings. I probably could have told you how many wings on each side. And then 4 legs, 1, 2, 3, 4. So with my directions, I could have either been super clear and yours looked very similar to mine, I also didn't even tell you where to put the crown or where to put the eyes. You probably put them anywhere. So with coding, it's really important that when you're creating codes for technology and when you're trying to tell technology to do something, you have to be really, really specific, because if you don't, your answer or whatever your device is doing for you might not be exactly what you want it to do. So it's super important that we're being specific when it comes to technology. So communication in general are super interesting, and it's so cool being able to have so many different ways to communicate. But coding adds another piece to it, and we're able to explore even more with technology and communicate in so many more ways besides just talking and using sound. So I hope you had so much fun exploring not only how to make sound in different ways to communicate and maybe send signals to people, but also understanding that sound is not the only way that we communicate. We can communicate by using technology and codes in order to send a message across if we need to send a message from far away. So I really hope you guys are super interested in coding. It's such a really awesome career that anyone can be part of. Codes have to do with computers, video games, phones, any piece of technology. I really hope you continue to explore the world around you and explore more about coding and figuring out different ways that you can do that. I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.